Welcome back to another episode of the Lightdrop podcast, where it's just two friends talking creativity and beyond. My name is Jamil,
And my name is Jeff.
and he got a new mic,
And I got a new mic,
crispy.
got a new wig. Doing this all for y'all. Hope you all are having
holiday episode.
Yeah, it's a holiday. So hope you all are having a great Halloween weekend. Obviously, I'm dressed up. It felt like I don't know what I'm supposed to be. If you can't tell.
I would say it's crazy obvious. It kind of works.
Yeah, I might wear this on a regular day.
You absolutely could probably, if you
off.
walked into anywhere and no one knew who you were, and you just wore it like confidently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a look. It could work.
I like it, especially because I just got the fresh cut. So I'm like, oh, this looks clean. It's not like I'm trying to hide anything. I love it.
What you been up to this week, man? What's what you been? We skipped last week, but
Yeah.
that just means that we got even more creative juices flowing from you know how it goes. A couple of weeks goes by and like we just kind of think about stuff that we talked about uh over the course of the last couple episodes. I know I do. I'll just be like, dang, we just talked about multitasking, and here I am
doing it.
multitasking.
Oh no. What was your experience like? What were you multitasking, or what were you doing?
Well, so this week I actually did way better because last week I was extremely tired because the week before it was like I'm working at my desk doing like my 9 to 5 booking, but then I'm also like I'm checking emails, I'm like talking to people on the side, I'm like doing little side like meetings and stuff like that. And then calling like I had to call someone about my water bill because apparently I have like a leak, or not a leak, but um I guess it's a leak. You know how when the toilet kind of runs like when you flush it, but when it's done filling, it'll keep kind of filling a little bit,
Oh shoot, that's not good.
and you
Yeah.
can kind of hear it. It's like shh,
Oh
like
yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So that
I
was
can never
like
finish it.
running my water bill up. So I'm like I'm taking care of that while I'm also working, and it was just like we talked about. And the Saturday came around, and I'm like, felt like I worked double,
Yeah.
But then
Exhausted.
this past week, like, you know what? I'm just gonna do one thing, or at least as close to one thing as I can. Like you said, the
Mm-hmm.
one thing.
Yep. Last episode, definitely check it
Yeah.
out.
And I noticed a difference, I mean, I knew I would notice a difference, but I definitely did. Way more energy come Friday, Saturday. I'm like,
Yeah.
should have been done that.
I should have followed my own advice the same way. Like I did not do just one thing. I did less, but at the end of the week, I was exhausted. On my own, like the work wasn't difficult. It wasn't like a difficult week. I was staying up late. I remember because we talked about this on LinkedIn, and I was like, my one goal this week is to get more sleep. And it's funny because it's like sleep, at least for my circumstance, I could have gotten more sleep. I think I was just used to staying up and just almost feeling like, oh, now that the last few weeks have been busy, um, and I wasn't sleeping because I was just busy. But now this week, it's like I want to reclaim my time. I don't know if you've ever felt that, where you're like kind of force yourself to do something fun, play video games, uh, because you're like, I did so much last week, so I got to reward myself.
Yeah.
So
For
I
me,
don't know.
it's like the nature of Friday or the weekend comes around, and I feel like I just have more energy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's Friday. Like, I can't go to sleep early. Friday, it's Friday vibes.
Yeah,
Like I want to
come on.
watch a movie. I want to like
Yeah,
do this, but then Saturday comes. I'm like, should have went. I shouldn't have stayed up past my bedtime. Like it
should have
wasn't.
stuck to it. Like we know these things, and we keep doing it.
Hmm.
We're gonna
But
get
it's
better though.
habits. It's habits.
Yeah.
I mean, it's years. We like starting from college. Like I was talking to someone a couple weeks ago, getting ready to graduate. Um, and he mentioned to me, he's just like, yeah, I was, the last year for sure, I just been head down, like work in the computer lab, like not
Mm,
really enjoying college stuff. Um, and it's just kind of the nature of like, you just kind of fall into it, and that turns into a habit. And then when you
yeah.
get out of college, it's like, I gotta, I gotta work, 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 work. Um,
Yeah.
but we don't just practice, and that's fine, because it's like everybody's ambitious. Everybody wants to, make progress towards whatever their goal is. But um, it's a practiced thing to also give yourself that other like replenishing time, to
Hmm.
just be to do it in such a way that it doesn't feel like you're not moving forward because you're letting yourself enjoy college,
Yeah.
you know.
Slowing down. That's a very interesting part that like people don't talk about a lot. When you leave college, you still have these old habits of work, 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 and it's because you're in an environment where you felt you probably had to compete a lot, and you did. And then you get
Mhm.
out, and you're like, oh, you meet other artists or whatever, and they're like, make sure you get enough sleep. You're like, I
Yeah.
wasn't taught. I was. What class was that?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Like no one told me about that.
There should be a class, for real, like sleep 101
Yeah.
or like rest and recover 101. That actually really could be a course where your homework is like how much time did you spend like chilling this week?
Hmm.
And then you come back, you're like, I didn't do my homework.
Yeah.
Ah,
I
fail.
didn't sleep.
It's
That's
like
interesting. Oh
you
man,
actually could fail a course because you didn't.
it's like I can tell you're a little sleepy.
Yeah. What's up with
Okay.
that? Have
Yeah,
you
what's
been
up with
paying
that?
attention,
How much sleep did you get? Nah.
bro?
Um, nah, man. I'm excited. Look, I'm excited about this episode. I just want to, yeah, because like I said, I want to share some of those things that I did this week, and it's interesting because you spoke about having a class um where people tell you to just go to sleep, or the professor tells you to go to sleep. It kind of yeah, kind of foreshadows what I'll be talking about today. I don't know if you want to talk about it right now, the art of noticing, or we want to wait for that heat at
Let's
the end of
jump
it.
into it.
All right, I'm gonna talk about. All right, so I've been reading this book, which has been super interesting because I always thought that progressing in a book meant that you were going through the pages, so you're learning the information. But this book makes me want to stop reading it, which is super interesting. So the book is called The Art of Nothing. Oh, sorry, The Art of Noticing. Sorry, by Robert Walker, and um, it is a book about creative exercises that you can do to keep yourself active throughout the day. And this isn't for artists. This is just for anybody who's interested in keeping themselves engaged and just aware of what's going on in the world. So the author first off starts off talking about the importance of it and how a lot of us, we're super busy these days. We always have something next to do, and we can kind of reclaim our time by noticing little details about the world. So, when was the last time you counted the blades of grass in your backyard?
What do you
Or
mean the last time?
the last time, or the first time, And that sounds very excruciating, right? Like sitting down, count, maybe not even that extreme, maybe counting the number of photo frames that you have in your house or the number
Mm,
of um like I counted the tiles in my back porch. I have
mm.
22 two of them, right? Another thing I counted was Jamil, you and I have known each other for since I looked it up because I went on our old Facebook message in
Oh,
2011. You and I have known each
damn.
other for 4,700 and maybe 90 days since you've come into my mind as somebody who I know existed, right? And that's just interesting stuff like that where it's just like it's unnecessary information, but it makes life more interesting. So one of the obviously you can count stuff, and then Robert Walker also talks about smelling stuff. So you can go on smell walks where you just
Smell walk.
smell walks, right? So you go around, maybe you go to a bakery, right? And you're like, well, that's an interesting smell of that bakery. Then you go to a coffee shop, you smell that.
Mm,
Um, and you obviously it's just you don't have to talk through everything. It's just you're going around life noticing a different part of it that you normally would just ignore. Um, Another one that I thought was super interesting was just coming up with little games in your head. So he talked about this one was extreme. So he talked about this person who um, they followed somebody without telling them. Listeners, I'm not telling you to follow anybody. Please, lawyers, let them know that we told them not to do
disclaimer.
this. But yeah, so disclaimer. So this person, I think she met somebody at airport or something, and then she just followed them to like Italy, and then just was sort of found out what the hotel they were staying at. There wasn't like a point. She wasn't trying to hurt them. She was just like, I'm gonna play this game until this person notices me, and I think they ended up noticing them. No
Police.
one, there was no point to that, right? No one had to. There wasn't a reward. I mean, this wasn't like a nefarious reason. This was just like a game that this person decided to play with themselves. So like, you can do that. The same thing for yourself. So like when you're driving to work, I like to imagine that the people who are running are gonna shit themselves because that makes me more interested in like, oh, they're like, how far will that person make it to the nearest public restroom, depending on how fast they're running.
Just doing calculate. Just
Yeah, I'm just like, will they make it? Or like, oh, this is a messenger and they're running to the city. The city. How far
yeah,
do
making
they?
up like a story for this. Yeah,
Yeah, for because the thing is like when you're going to work or you're driving around, you kind of forget like what is going on in the world, like
yeah.
what is happening, and if you're not actively telling yourself, whether it's through games or just prompts to notice, then you're gonna end up you know, just forget because your brain doesn't want to pay attention to those small details. You just have to actively tell yourself. So
It's like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, bro. I'd love to
no,
hear
that's
your
interesting. That's
yeah.
interesting because it's. I mean, what you said, a lot of what you said as far as the exercises go, definitely is like on the extreme side, but
Yeah.
it's like with a purpose. You know what I mean? It's like it's almost to like just like jumpstart your that side of your brain working. You know, because
Exactly.
I feel like you do a couple of those exercises and you gradually just start to do it like with everything, you know what I mean? Which is the point. This is just
Hmm.
really the point is like you said, to be aware, to notice, to be in the moment, to observe, right? So you give yourself these deliberate, ridiculous things to try and observe in the moment, um,
Exactly.
and just kind of gamify it, like you said. Because the other thing that makes me think of too is like we've said before in the past, just from experience and just from even observing other people when we've talked about like relaxing and R&R, like we just talked about, like people who have those habits like us, you know, coming out of school, even now, like it's hard to just stop and do nothing. Like some
Hmm.
people actually can't even like say, hey, just sit down and just chill for a little bit, and they'll like, it's like, what do you want me to do? Like,
Yeah.
just sit here and do nothing? Like, that's, I gotta be doing something, you know? So
Hmm.
this could be an opportunity for you to like gamify that for yourself to say, okay, today I'm today I'm gonna do nothing as far as like my work goes. But I'm still gonna give myself something to do. I'm gonna go like today. I'm gonna go see how many different smells I can smell.
Hmm.
Like you said, like I'm gonna deliberately go. Like I don't know, go on Google Maps, find a random bakery, and just go there and smell it. And then I'm
Hmm.
gonna go to another one and smell the smells there and determine which one smelled better. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that's gonna be my mission for today. But like, like you said, it sounds silly and kind of
Yep.
ridiculous, but yeah, that sounds like a fun way for anybody to just kickstart that that way of thinking, to just being observant, to being present, and to just being whimsical too.
Hmm.
Whimsical about being in the moment. And like you said, I mean, I know everybody has done that in the past. What you said about um kind of coming up with stories for people, like people watching,
Hmm.
that's probably that's probably like the most well-known exercise, for this, I would say, is just
Exactly.
sitting on a park bench or something and just watching people and just coming up with a story like, oh, this person looks like they're definitely an FBI agent.
Hmm.
Like
What did they do?
sunglasses. Like, what are they reading? They reading some kind of
Report.
yeah,
They're here to beat
exactly. Or
somebody.
intel, like they're on the phone. Oh, that was their, you
Yeah.
know, that's the
No,
CIA that just
100%. My mom and I used to do that whenever we were watching TV shows. Um, she would tell me, she'd be like, if I was gonna rob a bank, this is how I would do it, and we would just go off on riffing on like,
yeah,
which bank would you rob or whatever, and it's just like fun, and it kind of reminds me of something that I used to do when I was a kid, and I thought that everybody else, well, I thought I was the only one, but apparently other people do this as well. But when we were driving, I would look out the window and I'd imagine somebody like running through the woods, because obviously this was before cell phones and stuff. So I just have to look out the window to keep myself entertained. Um, and I would just imagine somebody's like running through the woods, trying to keep up with the car or whatever. But my
yeah,
version was that somebody was trying to catch a glimpse of my face, but they could just never catch up to the car. So every time the car slowed down, they would slow down. So that's the whole game of it. It's like, oh, you know, is that person gonna catch me in the woods and look at
all
my
these
face
little,
and steal it or whatever?
all
Um,
these little, all these things that these games we came up when we were little. My best friend, still to this day, and when we were growing up, um, like like known him since we were two. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I almost see him as like family in that regards. I was always at his grandmother's house. His grandmother lived right up the street from me, so he wasn't local. Like, he lived maybe like 30 minutes away in New Jersey, South Jersey. But he would always come to his grandma's like on the weekends and stuff, and I'd go over there and we'd hang out and like I'd be there all day, kind of thing. And one of the games that we used to play, we used to call it Spy, where
mhm,
um oftentimes like he had a big family, so there was a lot of times where when we'd be there during the weekends, there'd be a lot of people there. It'd be like, his uncles, they may come over for dinner, and there might be like 10 people in the house. So we'd be like playing around in the basement and stuff. We used to build like forts and everything in the basement, but then we'd say like we'd we'd play this game called Spy, where we'd give ourselves an objective, and like we'd put something like upstairs in the bedroom or something like that, or we knew where something was, and we'd just say like, okay, like goal is to get to that room without being seen. you
mhm,
know and like I don't know if we like glorified it to ourselves to where we thought we were better than we really were, you know where it's
mhm.
like we're sneaking through the house and we're like, and we used to go like to the dollar store or like Five Below. Five Below,
Yeah,
they used to sell like, they have all kinds of little like spy toy gadgets and stuff. Like, I remember we had a periscope, that thing where you could like look around a corner without peeking your
oh,
head around
so
the corner. You know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
talking about? Like, it has the
Mhm,
mirrors in it.
mhm.
Like I remember we went to like Five Below, got one of those, and it was just like we just have all these things where it's like, okay, now, like go, and, like we'll like sneak across to the room, and then it's like, okay, we got to get to this room so we can get up the steps, and it's like we try to do the whole thing without being seen. Um, and then in our minds, I mean, just kid stuff,
Yeah,
imaginations, right? Stuff that we don't really flex. We don't flex that muscle as adults because that's ridiculous.
yeah.
you know?
Making games like that. That's that, and the author talks about that. He talks about kids don't need an excuse to make a game out of something, so you
Hmm.
shouldn't either. It's like make a game out of whatever it is. Maybe it's the cracks on the floor. Don't step on a step on a line or
Yeah.
break your mom's back. Whatever it is, there are way more interesting things that you can play with at your disposal. Stories you can make up, smells, textures, anything, to keep yourself engaged. And that's just what I thought was super interesting. I was like, man, there's so many wonderful things out in the world that I could toy with or make up or um, draw on. Just things that like I'm like, wow, why didn't I notice this before? Um,
Yeah.
why was I paying attention before? But now it's like I'm looking for those things. I'm looking for jokes. I'm looking for insects.
Hmm.
Looking for rocks.
Yeah.
Remember
I was gonna say,
a few
did you
episodes
find any
before?
more?
Anything it is. Just interesting things. And the best line that I heard from the author was um, that the things that we notice, uh, those small things that we see, that you individually see as a person, that's what makes you you. So whether it's like talking through a presentation or something, you will get ahead in your job, in your work, in your life, based on those things that you notice. So to kind of treat it as a superpower, because it's like, if you're not flexing it almost every single day, paying attention to these things. I mean, because you never know. It's like you look at an insect, that you really, really, really like paid attention to. You spent maybe 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, looking at it, and you notice something that nobody else had seen before. And then 30 years down the line, you're working on a comp for like a VFX thing, and then you remember that color and you use it, and it's like no one else would have noticed that
Yeah. From like
that
a
bee had
yeah.
that like mark on it,
Yeah. It's
So
like was it you that was telling me um that when people go to museums, when people visit museums on average, they only spend like,
like
10,
20 seconds,
like yeah, like
maybe at
20, 30
most.
seconds
Yeah,
on that exhibit and then they kind of move on to the next one. And you were saying really you should be closer to like 10 minutes, 10
yeah,
minutes just kind of watching, like really looking at the painting and seeing it and kind of interpreting it in your own way.
exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's the same thing. The author brought that up. It's like, um, you can. I mean, obviously, 10 minutes is a lot to be looking at anything, for that long,
Hmm.
especially artwork. But it's something that you can also do. It's like pay attention to the artwork for 10 minutes. Just sit there looking at it. Pay attention to the guards. The author was like, guards in museums are specifically kind of placed in ways where they can kind of hover around the artwork. They can make sure things are safe. So you can play a game where you can say like, why is that guard or that um, I don't know what the word is for the people who dossier, or I forgot the word. Anyways, the people who help you by explaining the artwork to you, basically,
Mm.
they're placed in very strategic ways throughout the museum. Pieces are placed in very strategic ways, so you can pay
Yeah.
attention to that. Look like, why was this screen put over here? Why was this sculpture put over here? You can read the plaques. You know,
Yeah.
all everything. There's just so much more in a museum for you to notice. And I actually practiced that when I went to a museum like 2 weeks ago. I was like, can I sit here and look at this painting for more than 20 seconds? And I didn't get to see every single thing in the exhibition, but it was still interesting because the pieces that I did stay with really made an impact in like my week. Basically, I still remember aspects of these pieces because I spent you know, I try to spend at least 10 minutes, but at least five actually.
Yeah, that kind of ties in. I saw a video. Um, I went down a YouTube rabbit hole about a week ago,
Uh-oh.
and classic rabbit hole.
All right.
And I ended up on this video where this guy was talking about how to be more eloquent, like how to speak more eloquently. Um, and it really doesn't boil down to like knowing so much about the topic. It's about like having more to draw from other experiences essentially. And he kind of talks about the difference between like your surface lexicon and your deep lexicon.
Mm,
Lexicon being the words that the words that are readily available for your brain to kind of pull to piece sentences together, you
that's the
know.
word for your like
Yeah, your
repository, your
lexicon
vote.
is
Wow.
like your pool, is like your word pool, like
Ah.
when you speak, it's like all the, like the I think it was like 1500 or something words, like the main 1500 words that you use daily,
Hmm.
to like speak and pull sentences from. And then you have, another 25, 30,000 words that in the English language, but you just never use them,
Mm.
and so your brain, as you piece sentences together, it just doesn't pull from those like quickly, and so it's like, in order to speak more eloquently, it's kind of about slowing down, really thinking about what you want to say, and then allowing yourself to pull from more words that really explain what it is that you're trying to get across, as
Mm.
opposed to just defaulting to those surface lexicon terms, like such as like at the end of the day, or um you know once the
I say,
ball gets rolling, like these
yeah,
phrases
good.
like that.
Use
Yeah,
the word good a
exactly.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just like stuff that's so commonplace that really diminishes what you're saying,
Hmm.
and obviously doesn't come across as being eloquent. And so like what you're saying, this exercise of really diving into like the moment is kind of the same thing, to where it's allowing you now, when you go to be creative, right? Because I'm interpreting this as a creative, creative
Hmm.
professional, how I can apply that to things that I'm trying to make. Now all of a sudden, you've flexed that muscle a little bit more, so you can go a little bit. You've practiced just going a little bit deeper about, what does this mean? What am I making? What is this? You know, like I didn't just use a red. Like, I used a slightly warmer red because I
Yeah.
wanted to look like that bug I saw. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Or like
Right.
this smell that I smell. If you're a writer or something, it's like you can explain that because you sat in the coffee shop for 20 minutes and tried to make out every aspect of
Hmm.
that smell that you're smelling. Now all of a
Yeah.
sudden you can write about something in a different way. It's just kind of like allowing you to tap in deeper, I guess. But I
Hmm.
just thought that was interesting, because, or like an interesting comparison of like your surface lexicon, those just like standard words that you use daily to talk to people, and then your deep lexicon that's there hidden, but your brain just doesn't pull from it because you don't really give it the chance to kind of go deeper.
Yeah. And expanding on that, so with lexicons, and explaining something, Robert Walker was also like, you know, there was this exercise that a professor gave other students, uh, and the exercise was to explain something without using metaphors. So you use your most pure form of saying, and really like dive in. What is something like that you, if you were explaining it to somebody else who didn't know what it
The
was?
metaphor being like yeah, I know what you mean. A
Yeah,
metaphor
like
being like it's as if it were something else. Like, you can't
yeah,
say that. You got to just say what it is.
what it is and use
Yeah,
your word like and the way that when I think about it, it's really hard
that's hard.
to do that, especially as like artists, because we, for the most part, we understand specific things. So like when we're talking about like a teal color or something,
Yeah,
um, most of us understand what that means. Or like when we're talking about the texture of something feeling rough or grunge, maybe we might say like, oh, this got the texture of like a frog. So visually we know what that looks like, especially if you're working in a like let's say you're working in a commercial where everyone's looked at the texture of a frog. But to be able to step outside of that and explain it in a refreshing way, it's so difficult to be able to even write it down. So yeah, he suggested doing that, using your original thoughts to explain something, and then once you've done that, you'll realize like why would I ever use a metaphor to explain something else when there's so many other
yeah.
ways, right?
It's like a cop out, you know.
Right? Yeah.
It's like that because that makes me think of that makes me think of supervisors, CG leads, or directors, whoever's giving creative notes.
Yes.
How many times have you gotten a note where it's just abstract and it's like and it's hard because to their credit, it's hard sometimes to where they want to give you direction on how to manipulate something to achieve the look that they're going for, and that's almost what's happening. It's
Hmm.
it's like, oh, it just feels too radical.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, this red color is just it's too delicious. And you're like,
You're like, what? How do I
and you're
interpret
just
that?
like, what do you mean? Like, it's like, yeah, it's just, it feels too appetizing, this
Yeah.
red color. Like, I want it to feel a little bit more,
Like,
yeah. And then, yeah, and you're just like,
I don't know what to do.
what?
Yeah. Yeah, give me something.
But then that goes to like that surface. It's like you have to practice. And one of the things he talked about in that video I saw was that um, the best way to do it is to give yourself time ahead of speaking. Like that's one of the easiest low hanging fruit ways to improve your eloquence and your ability to tap into your deep lexicon is so we're so uh we're so inclined to jump immediately to answer something because we think, oh, maybe they won't understand, or maybe they'll think I don't understand or I don't know. But that's actually a really big tool and a really powerful thing to communicate to someone. To come across eloquent is to say that you don't know yet, or that you're currently in the process of dissecting what they're asking for, so it's like if
Hmm.
someone asks you like, what do you mean, as simple as that. It's like, instead of jumping out and saying, well, I blah, possibly something like, it's like really taking a time, like even a pause for 5 6 seconds and saying, and really communicating to them like, I actually, I'm not, I'm having a hard time finding that answer. And you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like really computing that and really like explaining how you're really trying to find it.
Hmm.
Like that's the first step, is like being comfortable doing that and taking time to speak, or to think before you speak it, is like is is something that not many people do.
Yeah. Because I mean, people don't like that silence, that
Yeah.
pause. And you and I talk about it a lot where or even when we're speaking on the podcast, it's like, can I pause a bit?
Yeah.
Just a little bit? And it's just hard. It's like, I want to talk right now.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a powerful thing. Robert Walker also talks about that with listening. It's like when you're speaking to people, um, pausing to give them the space to speak can make the difference in a conversation. It's like you don't have to fill every single spot. And the good thing is that with that is when you give people that space, they will go on and talk about their lives like, like your best friends or something just because you've paused. So it's a very powerful thing. It's awkward, but it's like once you get over the um the habit of constantly filling up space or feeling like I need to say something right away, so many other things can happen. Either people are speaking to you a bit more or you're able to process information and kind of tap into that lexicon like you were saying. So
Yeah.
super interesting thing. I mean, I love this book. I haven't finished it yet. I've been re-listening to it, certain parts just because I'm like, oh, that was super interesting. And the only other book that's made me feel like this was uh, the what's the name? Why is his name disappearing from me now?
What's the name of the
Um,
book? Is it?
the name of the book is um,
It's just in that deep lexicon. Is your
yeah, man, that deep lexicon. What is the
you
book?
can't take a minute and pause.
I'll come back to it.
Take it no, no,
Hmm.
take as much time as you need. Pause. Find the answer, Jeff.
Rick Rubin.
There you go.
Rick Rubin's book. Yeah,
There you go.
and just the ideas that we got from that book, just making you stop and listen and really reflect on what the author was saying. It's just been super interesting being able to stop and actually apply the things because a lot of times some of these books will give you, oh, this is the morning routine that you have to follow. It's like, okay, I'm not going to be able to do that right now, but you can notice things immediately. You can pause immediately. So I always love these like action. Why are you laughing? I'm over here talking about serious stuff. You giggling to yourself.
But off what I'm listening. No, I promise you I'm listening to what you're saying, but I
Yeah.
also I started counting the curls in that.
Yeah.
if
No, don't
if
forget
you're
it.
listening to this, if you're not watching this right now, you're only listening. Jeff has on a nice, very nice Halloween wig that honestly I stopped noticing because it could work. It's a pretty good wig, but
Mm-hmm.
I just noticed it again and I could not
Good.
think of how ridiculous.
I'm gonna for the special people who are watching. So this is the first wig that I got on. This is the second wig that I got sent on Amazon. This piece of trash, I don't even know what to do with it. I was gonna keep it as like an extra, but like the difference in if even if you look at the crispiness of the like this looks shiny, right? Like it looks like
That's what I'm
healthy
saying is
hair.
we've been talking for the past 30 minutes and I actually stopped noticing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it
Sorry.
blended in. But then like I said, it's one of those things, I allowed myself time
Mm-hmm.
to notice and to count the curls individually as you were speaking just now, and that just kind of it just threw me off is all. But I'm I'm back. I'm locked in again.
Yeah. Oh man, nah. This you got to get yourself a wig. I don't know what you're going as for Halloween or if you're doing anything, but
Bro, I had that was my go-to Halloween, like elementary school, middle school. I had a giant, like it was one of those giant ones.
giant
And I
what?
had like it was a giant like afro wig.
Oh my god!
Like
Well,
it
you're
was
putting your arms like this. I'm like, what do you have on your back? Like, how big
giant
was it?
afro wig. I
Yeah.
had like a little nose ring. I had like one of those like vests on, like those like sequin vests,
Mm-hmm.
sunglasses.
What
Mind you,
were you?
I'm like 8. I was just fly. I was just fly
Oh, God.
for Halloween.
Gotcha. That's your
You
outfit.
know, just
I'm fly.
what
That
do you
makes
mean?
sense.
This is I'm not dressed up.
I'm drippy.
I'm just drippy for Halloween.
Jesus. Uh, tell me what's up. What else? What else you been up to, man? Because I feel like we can share a bunch of stuff. I want to know. Sorry, I want to know what you've been up to as far as like Halloween spirit. I've obviously been watching a couple of scary movies. We can talk about that. I want to hear what you've been up to, Jamil.
I've been so I don't there's not too many trick or treaters on my block. So I've been hesitant to decorate and go through cuz it's like it would be I don't know. I usually don't decorate the exterior of my dwelling.
Mm-hmm.
But this year I was close and I don't know. I feel like I don't know, man. I'm like it's like I want to it's like you said tap back into when you're younger. I feel like I kind of lost that about Halloween lately. It's like I used to, like everybody, like everyone else, love to run out trick or treating, go to all of the haunted house parties and stuff like that. But I haven't really done much lately. I will
Mm-hmm.
say highlight though, like just to prove that I'm not like that I really it was serious about Halloween. The last Halloween that was in office for me was 2019. I wore T Rex. You know what I'm talking about? Those inflatable T Rex.
You wore that? How you drove there like that?
No, this was I had it on the subway. Brought it with me on the subway,
Oh my god.
bro. I was locked in, and it
Jeez.
was. I'm pretty sure I got like second place the office
Wow.
holiday party mainly just from dedication because I had
Dang.
to take like I had to maneuver, bro. I worked in the Halloween
Oh
costume.
my. How? Like what do you? Is it because it's like one of those like puffy ones, right? Like how do you even
Yeah,
type? Like you stick your hands through something or?
yeah, I made it work, and it
Jeez.
was and it was respected, and it was well received, and yeah, like I said,
That
I
yeah. It's dedication.
Halloween, I was about it, but now lately, not so much. But I was, it's like thinking about Halloween as a holiday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess it is. We don't have off or anything, but it's a holiday, so it's like the first kickoff of the holiday season. I haven't really been too festive lately, but I like and I don't really like scary movies.
Mm.
so so I'm lacking there, but I don't know, man.
You can watch um my wife and I, y'all, we've been watching the Twilight series. So we started off with obviously the original Twilight. And it was ridiculous. It was like I can't believe this is what was hot in the streets. Like this? This is what this is your kings and queens. Uh but it's been fun. It's been fun to rewatch that. I just watched last night, bro. We watched this movie called The Wailing. It's a Korean film.
wait,
Terrifying.
wait a minute. What was it about? I feel like I
Yeah,
may have
it's
seen it.
it's like okay, so it's 2.5 hours, but it's very good. It's a movie about this town that just there's a bunch of murders that just start happening, and there's this police officer who's kind of dumb, and he's trying to figure out like what's going on, and
Bro, nothing better than a dumb police
dumb
officer in a
police officer.
movie.
He's so dumb,
In a
and it's
movie.
there's a little bit of comedy. Like he gets scared every once in a while, like things will attack him, and he starts screaming. It's like, oh man, this is the person that's supposed to save everyone. Um, and he's dumb the whole movie, like all the way to the end. He's just like dumb. He just does. He's the reason why the movie ends up going bad. Or like the characters' lives end up getting ruined because of him. But it was super interesting. It was terrifying. I think Korean films they don't stick to the same like linear structure as U.S. films, or maybe like that's how all foreign films are. But I left
Wait,
the
what do you
the
mean? They what do you mean?
so there's no like if you like a movie like Parasite at the end of it you
Mhm.
kind of left like you don't feel as fulfilled because I think in US movies a lot of times it's like, oh, there's a happy ending. Um,
Oh, I see
there's
what you mean. Like
yeah,
it's just
there's
kind
a
of like
yeah, you kind of just left like, oh, what did I just? You kind of left to sit with the information that you just received, and sometimes
yeah,
it's not good or bad. It's kind of like in the middle. So that's how I felt at the end of that. I was like, what did I just watch? I'm so
yeah,
confused. Um, what was the point of this all? But it was still very very good. So I
yeah.
definitely recommend it. It's on Netflix if you want to check it out.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say it's like too terrifying, but there is like there are moments where it's classic horror where it's like, oh, kind of leading up to a monster being seen or things are jumping out. But since it's also in Korean and you're just reading the subtitles, it's it's not as scary, but just beautifully done movie to check out.
Yeah, my wife was watching this movie yesterday with Anna Kendrick about like a serial killer on Netflix.
Mm,
And I was kind of just watching it. I didn't see the whole thing. I didn't like stay till the end. I was kind of just in the kitchen watching passively.
hmm
Um,
As we do.
yes,
It's like, what you watching?
exactly. But from what I gathered, it was like, it was a serial killer movie. It was about a serial killer that was based on a true story. And basically she was telling me at the end it was like, it was disturbing, right? Like the serial killers, right? Like when you really think about it, it's like that's
Mm,
it's messed up. But
yeah.
then it was just made her think about like why is there this fascination sometimes with serial killers and like they have those like those serial killer like the fake ones, you know what I mean? Like the fake stories that people listen to,
hmm
or like this infatuation with like serial killers that did this, or like they want to know about them, and it's like creepy.
Yeah.
It was like what
It,
was it's like wait, like after watching that movie, it was like wait, why do people why are people so infatuated sometimes? Like not everybody, but some people are just like, oh, I need to know more.
yes.
Like
They get very hooked on it. And
yeah,
I've thought about that too because I used to listen to a lot of those podcasts and I think it just you just end up kind of in the story, interested in what's going on, like how do those people get caught, and you forget that these are people's lives that were ruined. So I definitely cut back because I'm like, this wasn't fun for somebody. It wasn't like an
yeah,
episode. This was somebody who was fighting for their lives.
exactly. Bro, could
So
you, bro? I would be upset, not upset. But I'd be tight,
nah, I'll be
like if
upset.
somebody was listening to my, someone's like if I'm experiencing this in the '70s, it's like, hey, 40 years from now, somebody's going to be listening to this for entertainment, to this
Mm,
story for their own entertainment. I'd be like,
nah,
why?
yeah,
What do you mean? This was horrifying, but spooky season, we blame it on
hmm
spooky season. Um, and of course, tying it all back to
yeah,
noticing, observing. Maybe that's what it is. It's kind of like it. It almost doesn't feel real, right? Back to the serial killer stuff. Like it's
hmm
like something like that when you see a story, a fictional story about a serial killer. It's just like no way that existed. Like that was a thing. You know what I mean?
right,
Like somebody would go out and do this to people like habitually before they got caught, kind of thing. But yeah, man, it's like kind of taking that step back, as with anything, observing, noticing, thinking about it. It kind of just it's a good exercise to you know,
remind yourself, yeah,
to
to
remind yourself just
be
in
able to
general.
see, be able to see like, oh, it's what is going on in my life right now that is worth paying attention to, and sometimes it's literally like the most mundane things, and
Hmm.
it's your mundane thing. It's like you can sort of dive into that world, and it's it's exciting, is what I'll
Hmm.
say. It's like I like that book that I read, The Art of Noticing, really made me realize that there's so many wonderful things that are interesting in my life and my walk to work in the people that I'm seeing, stories that I can make up, and it's probably 100% true for everyone else too. So it's like there's just things that are just interesting that we should
Mhm.
just be watching.
What are you missing?
Yeah, what do you like? What are you missing out in the world on your walk? What are the stories
Mhm.
that you can tell yourself? So definitely check out the book. I borrowed it from the library, so it might be in your local library for free. So definitely check it out. Art of
Yes.
Noticing by Robert Walker.
I haven't heard that in a library.
Yeah,
That's
that's where I got all my books.
2024.
That's
I
the
forget they exist. I'm gonna be honest.
what
In this day and age, is it
you
that's
can
impressive.
you can get so many things, bro. Okay, so to kind of go off on a tangent, um, my wife got she got what's it called? It's like a labeler, but it's like a stamping machine. So she can
Yeah.
stamp on her bike, like engraver or whatever. I think that's what it's called.
Mm.
You can borrow that from the library. There are libraries where you can borrow um, taxidermy pelicans, random stuff. Uh, you can borrow, I don't know, uh, like lawn care stuff at some libraries that are like a lot bigger. There's just so many things. So I
It's
definitely
like the
always
local,
advocate for
yeah, the
libraries.
local go to.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Laptops, maybe. I mean, I don't know. The libraries are a blessing, so definitely check them out. Another thing about libraries is that when you borrow like a podcast, like let's say this podcast I'm listening to, um, I think the library gets charged for it, but it's like a small amount. So if you're borrowing something, make sure that you take it back whenever you're done with it, so that the library doesn't have to pay if you're not listening to it. But yeah, that's my bit about libraries. Definitely check out your local library.
Yeah. I'm
Literally.
gonna no, this is I feel like we don't we don't say this usually at the end of the episodes, but I think deliberately from this episode to the next episode, I'm gonna practice this. We're gonna next episode we're gonna catch up about this before we dive into anything else to see if I practiced what you talked about, the observing, just like noticing things. I'm gonna have a couple random things that I noticed. If you're listening, do it with us.
Mm-hmm.
You come back
Bring it.
next week with us. Come back
I
with
want.
some
I want you to bring
random,
something. Bring a rock.
yeah,
Bring
exactly.
a dead
A count, tile count.
a frog or something. I don't know.
How many tiles are in your bathroom?
Yep.
On your bathroom wall.
Count them all.
Exactly. All
Nah,
right.
but yeah. So that is that the pod.
I think that's the pod, Joe.
All right.
Notice.
I'll see y'all.
Peace.